Welcome to the Green Building Show, where we investigate green design and building trends throughout Australia.
We're today at the University of Wollongong with Professor Paul Cooper and Lloyd Nicol. Thanks for being with us, gentlemen.
No worries.
So you guys recently had a big win in China. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, well, Team UOW, which is the team from the University of Wollongong and TAFE Illawarra, the first ever team to gain entry to the finals of a solar decathlon competition, actually won the Solar Decathlon China 2013 competition, which was a fantastic achievement. And the team did that with a demonstration of how to retrofit a classic Aussie Fibro home, which was also a first, because that's the first retrofit demonstration that's ever been in any solar decathlon competition.
Fantastic. All right, so we want to talk to you about the Illawarra Flame, which was your retrofit win. I guess tell us about that home. You know, what is it? What sets it apart from your traditional Australian fibro cottage?
Well, a classic Australian fibro cottage built in the 1950s or 60s is really a bit of a classic when it comes to inefficiency, energy inefficiency. They had pretty terrible insulation, in fact no insulation in most of the homes. They're very solidly built, so they've got a good structure, and so the great thing about this project has been demonstrating how you can take that fundamentally strong and worthy house and bring it into the 21st century and make it really energy efficient. In fact, net zero energy, so it'll actually produce more energy over the course of a year from the photovoltaic panels on the roof of the house than will be consumed within the house.
Fantastic. So energy efficiency is such a huge topic, but for this particular, throughout September, we do want to focus on one particular topic, which is passive solar. And so you guys obviously have some great passive solar design principles that you've put into the Illawarra Flame. So can you tell us, I guess, what are the key credentials or the key considerations you need to take into account when creating a home like the Illawarra Flame?
Well, just as with any home, whether it's a retrofit or a new build home, passive solar design or passive design is all about making use of the building itself rather than active systems like air conditioning and so on to keep the home comfortable during as much of the year as possible. Mm-hmm. So the Illawarra Flame project, just with any new build, looks at the key basic issues around passive design. So some of the key issues include climate, so one needs to design the home or the retrofit of an existing home to match the climate that the house is in. The house will also be located in terms of orientation in one way or another. And in the case of a retrofit, you've obviously got your existing home and you are, if you like, dealt the cards that you get in terms of orientation, and you then have to make the most of that.
All right, great. And what are the rules when it comes to orientation? Is it that you always have to have glazing to the north or vice versa?
Yeah, that's correct. So generally when designing a home or retrofitting a home, you try to increase the amount of glazing that you have on the north face of your building in Australia. And you try and, particularly in the Sydney area, you try and avoid glazing on the east and west sides of the home. So the west, you get a lot of westerly afternoon sun that's very hot, so you try and prevent glazing there or shade it. And the idea is that in summer you try and avoid direct sunlight penetrating that glazing, so you minimise the heat load on the building, also the cooling load. But in winter you want to try and maximise the amount of solar heat gain through those windows, so you can design shading to match with your glazing as well.
Okay, fantastic. And what would be the design difference between a home in Hobart, say, to one in Cairns?
Well, in Hobart, obviously you've got cold winters. You want to maximise the solar gain coming in, so you choose the overhang of the eaves above the windows, such that you let in the winter sun, but keep out the summer sun.
Right, so the eave sizes would be different?
Absolutely. So one of the simple tools that, in fact, homeowners can use are sun path diagrams, and they will actually show you on a sheet of paper, quite simply, what the angle of the sun is going to be at your location at any time of the year. So that will allow you to choose what your eave overhangs might optimally be, and also show you what other structures might be shading the house.
Great.
But then going back to somewhere like Darwin or up in the tropics, really you want to keep the sun out all the year round. So the house needs to have a big hat with a wide brim. So you're really trying to keep the sun out of the house at all time in those types of climates.
Fantastic. And what about the Illawarra Flame? What climate zone was that one designed for, or if any?
So the Illawarra Flame is designed for the Sydney climate zone, so that's climate zone 5, based on the Australian standards.
All right, so that's quite a medium climate zone.
Yeah, that's right.
So what are the key design or elements or orientation elements that have to be taken into account for that kind of climate zone?
So based on the climate in the Wollongong, Sydney area, it's a mild climate. So you aim to maximise solar heat gain during winter and minimise it in summer. So as Paul just spoke about, that means sizing your eaves appropriately so that the sun comes in when you want it to and stays off the house otherwise. And in the case of the Illawarra Flame, we've got a lot of glazing on our north face, and we've got eaves and an awning over the front to protect the major glazing that we have on the home.
Okay, great. And what is the correct size or appropriate size for that kind of climate? Eaves.
So in our case, it's around 450mm overhang, but it also depends on where the sill of your window is. So in our case, our sills are approximately about, I think, 600mm off floor level. So those things are quite important. We also have bifold doors on the front of our house, so they go right to the ground, but that's the area where we actually have an awning protecting the sun from direct radiation. Coming in direct contact with those.
And so in that kind of climate, should you be minimising glazing on the north face?
No, so in this climate you try and maximise the glazing on the north face and minimise glazing on the east and west face.
Right, okay, fantastic.
And one of the other things that one needs to think about is not just about solar impacts and solar gains through glazing, but also cross ventilation. And so the retrofit that the team undertook on the Illawarra Flame House involved putting bifold doors across the living area, and on the opposite side of the house, in the kitchen area, bifold windows. So we had really great cross-flow ventilation, which is another whole aspect of window design.
Fantastic. We will touch on cross-ventilation also with one of your team members. And I just wanted to get an idea, Paul, I guess designs like this, like the Illawarra Flame, what kind of impact, because obviously it's a relatively simple retrofit of such an iconic Australian home. So what kind of impact can some design principles like you've implemented here really have on the greater Australian residential market?
Well, I think one of the great things that the Illawarra Flame has done is it's just demonstrated to people that it's not that difficult to really transform their house into a house of the 21st century. And you can change a house with virtually no insulation into the walls into one that has an R value in the walls of 5.0 or of that order, which is absolutely plenty of insulation to reduce the energy consumption within the home. But it's really about that demonstration to the public, and literally tens of thousands of people have now been through the house and seen that it's actually not that difficult, and people have found this quite inspiring, I think.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations, gentlemen, on your win, and I'm sure I'll speak to you again later on this month.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks very much, guys.